Hello, mainstreamers and cinephiles and everybody in between. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
And Operation Silver Screen is a go. Hello, welcome to Operation Silver Screen. This cinema-related operation has been created to clear our desk from stacks of open cases. And what are these cases? Well, even being the film lovers that we are, Caitlyn and I have a huge backlog of must-see films that we still need to experience. So each week we'll tackle a film that either one of us or both of us still need to see. We will then provide a debrief on our week's mission, giving our outlook on the film's popularity and significance, as well as providing our opinion on whether or not it's worth seeing and other fun insight. And Caitlyn, what was our assignment this week?
Well, being our senior detective here at Operation Silver Screen, Brian, I'm sure you love a good whodunit case. Well, the mission this week, we were going to track down a criminal who was turning the streets of Italy red. Very, very red. So our debrief this week is from a 1975 crime thriller by Dario Argento, and that is Deep Red. And before we get into it, I do want to mention that the first part of our debrief will be spoiler-free as we talk about our overall thoughts on the film. But as we move into the classified portion of the mission, there will be some spoilers on the story. But we'll be sure to give you a warning when we get to that part. So, Deep Red, this film is considered the most famous and the best of Italian giallo cinema, which we'll talk a little bit later when we talk about the significance of the film, but is also considered Dario Argento's best work. Now, Brian, I know you've seen Suspiria. Is that the only Argento film that you've seen?
Yes, it is. I've just been putting off his films for a while. They've always been on my list. I can't think of any of them specifically, but it's just always been on my list to check out more Argento films.
Yeah, this will be the third film of his I've watched. I've actually started to watch it before, and then I turned it off just because of the timing, or I wasn't in the mood to really watch a film at that time. But I've seen Suspiria, of course, and I've also seen Inferno. I still need to see the third in the Three Mothers trilogy. And there's some other films of him, but I wanted to check out as well. Were you excited about this film? Was this on your radar at all?
Radar?
Radar.
Like I said, Argento was on my radar. So this film, I mean, that would have just been part of that collection. So, yeah, it was on my radar. I was looking forward to this movie. We've been doing a lot of, a lot of the recent movies we've done have been in the 21st century. So I was looking forward to going back to some of the classics, especially always looking forward to a horror classic because I've seen so many of horror movies that it's rare that I get to see a new one.
And Deep Red is a film with many names. The Italian title is Profondo Rosso. Am I pronouncing that right? You're the Italian expert, right?
No, I'm not. Actually, I get made fun a lot by my family because I lived there for 3.5 years and I know like very little Italian. Like I know enough to order food and say hello. That's it.
I mean, that's important skills, right?
Yeah, I think so. But what you said sounds familiar. Like I can imagine somebody saying that in the country Italy.
Okay, Profondo Rosso, close enough. But it was released in Italy in 1975. In the US, it first premiered in 1976 and had a wide theatrical release in June of that year. And then it was re-released and retitled as The Hatchet Murders, so that's another title it has. And then again in 1982 as The Phantom of Terror. So it's had quite a few titles.
Yeah, the French has a different title for it. It's like Red, the Color of Death. They were going to call this at first like Sabretooth something, but a lot of people were doing animal names during that time for films. So they said, nah, we'll go with something else. Let's get simple.
I think Deep Red is definitely the most fitting, which you'll understand why later. But Brian, what were you able to find as far as what critics had to say about this film or the critical reception?
So this has a 7.5 on IMDb, and it has a 93% critic rating and an 86 audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. However, it is not certified. The 93% for critics, there were only 29 reviews. However, there are a lot of reviews for this film, a lot of analysts for this film, but just, it's kind of an obscure movie. But there were like 10,000 plus audience reviews. So people have seen this film.
Yeah, and I know some big name directors have really praised this as well. I watched Introduction to a Film by Guillermo del Toro when he kind of sprung its praises. It also did win at a couple film festivals, but it's not a huge award-winning film, which is what we've been talking about recently. So this is a little bit different from that. This is a little bit more pulpy, something a little bit more for the masses.
Wait, this is more for the masses?
I would say this genre is.
Like horror is more for the masses? What masses are we talking about?
The Italian masses in 1970s. Not modern, but when it was released.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different definition for mass. I'm thinking like of a large audience, like a large fitting group for this film. And I would say like, and comparing it to the other films were for the masses, like for the majority audience.
I wouldn't say so. I say that we've talked a lot about films that were very much critically aimed, more cinephile aimed, and this is, I think now we kind of see this as more as an art house cinema, but the genre that this is in was definitely like pulp, campy. So maybe not the masses, but it wasn't as, I mean, we're kind of getting into like our later section when we talk about who this is for, but back in the day, I guess it was more, it was meant to entertain. It was an entertainment piece as opposed to something that was more serious and critic focused.
Okay. I would just give a shout out to Beautiful Mind, because actually I've already talked to two people who have seen that movie before. I found out my mom really likes that movie, and when we saw that, the ratings for that, the audience outweighed the critics.
Interesting.
Yeah, because remember, it's even on the IMDb top 250, critics only gave it a 73%, but I think the audience gave it 90 something.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I was too.
But back to this film, was there anything else you found as far as the reception to this?
No, not much. Like you said, there weren't too many awards for this, and this also, it just came out at like odd times. So by the time the US got it, the film was already distributed. So I think this movie, it was disqualified from certain awards in just technicalities.
Okay. So to just tell you a little bit about what this film is about, the summary for this film is when a psychic medium senses a murder in a crowd at a parapsychology conference, she releases a string of bizarre and bloody murders. After witnessing one of these murders, jazz musician Marcus Daly begins to investigate the crime and is aided by the spunky and beautiful reporter Gianna Brezzi. So, Bryant, what did you think about this film? What was your opinion about this? I know that there's kind of a lot to talk about as far as the narrative and the visual style of this. One more so than the other, maybe.
Yeah. First, I would just have to agree with you. Very beautiful and spunky. It actually wasn't Gianna. No, the way he was screaming though, he didn't pronounce the first A. It was like Jana. Yeah, Jana.
Oh, Jana?
Yeah.
Jana? Okay.
Yeah, I was infatuated with her. So like at some points, like you'd be looking at her and then I'll just be like, like doe eyes, and then it'll just cut to a murder. I'll be like, oh God, I'm caught off guard.
Dario Argento also was quite enamored by her. He actually had a relationship with the actress.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that more in the significance. So for this, my opinion for this film though, this is a very creepy and atmospheric horror noir that is intriguing to watch on multiple levels. Aside from some moments that did drag for me, I thought there were moments that like the impact was met, but we kind of just stayed there for a little bit longer. I think you kind of see this issue a lot with art house films. So it's interesting seeing it back in the 70s being done as well. I haven't seen it done too recently. I know one big director that's famous for it is Terrence Malick, just kind of focusing on a leaf for 10 minutes to show us how nature can be a metaphor for swimming lessons.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but it's not just a atmospheric horror film though. This isn't like I mentioned art house, but this isn't an art atmosphere horror movie alone. This has some brutal kills in it as well, and I think they still have the intended effect to today's standard. I mean, you do have one of the hatchet kills. You said this movie was called Hatchet Kills, and back in the 70s, we got a lot of those cuts, like the camera, it focuses on the knife and then they focus on the body and it's already made contact. So you don't actually see that like penetration. But the first kill you see in this, and it was brutal. Like it was very effective. And I think all of that atmosphere and brutality is ultimately led by Argento. And it even has its own flair in the movie as well. So it's kind of like Suspiria. While it's a violent movie, there is a beauty to it. And I really like that about Argento.
Yeah, I really like Argento's style as well. There's a lot of camera movement. The camera is just always moving, and tracking shots, zoom, pans, you name it. There's jumpy shots, there's odd compositions, there's extreme close-ups, there's quick editing at times, and it's oddly edited at times, and it's very visceral in its visual language. And of course you have the bright red colors, bright colors in general, but the blood, of course, is very, very, very bright red. And it's gory, and it's a very, very interesting style.
I agree, definitely. You mentioned the cameras. In the film biz for business in the biz, we call it cinematography, and it was excellent in this film. You get a collection of different shots, and they all have their purpose, and they all emphasize what the artist is intending for you to feel. Like when it comes to that atmosphere, I noticed in Suspiria too, like he'll do some far away shots just to show you how isolated of an area that somebody's in, and it kind of gives you this Overwatch feel as well. So that in itself kind of increases like some paranoia for the character.
What did you think of the acting in this film? And also the audio? The audio was something for me that took some getting used to. So one thing about a lot of Italian films at this time is that all their audio was dubbed in later. So all the actors were speaking in their native languages and dialects, and then it would be dubbed in later in post to whatever language they wanted to release the film at. So for me, that took some getting used to. And I think with the acting, it was a little over the top at times, but I think that a lot of times that was meant to create a humorous effect.
This movie does have some humor to it. The humor is not even dark. It's just kind of, there's some nice, light, fun humor in this. As for the acting, I like the acting. The acting, everybody was doing their parts. No one was really chewing up scenery like you sometimes see in older films. Though I think by like the 70s, you really don't see that too often. The only one, now as far as the ADR, because that always throws me off. Or it threw me off with Suspiria. Because I found 3 different copies of Suspiria before I had to start looking into why the voices don't match up. I'm like, the movie's in Italian. They're speaking Italian. Why is it not? And it wasn't even like, and you know that I noticed that quick. Like if it's a millisecond, if it's a couple milliseconds off, I'll notice it. So like I started messing with it, see if I can rearrange it. I was like, no, it's on top of it perfectly, but it's still like there's a gap. And then I looked it up and found out that, Italian films were filmed in silence, and basically it's kind of like doing voice acting. The one good thing about it being in Italian and me not learning Italian is that I have to read the subtitles. So a lot of times when they're speaking, I was looking down and focused on the words. So I didn't I think I did that purposefully more in this movie, so I didn't have to look at their mouths, so it wouldn't throw me off. The only one that was really throwing me off was that police chief. Because
yes, he was the worst.
Because he shows up and he's eating a sandwich as he's doing his lines, and I think I could see like while they were filming it, they didn't think of it as an issue, but I bet whoever was doing the dubbing was so frustrated with this decision because he's speaking clearly, but his mouth is half full with a sandwich, so it's not lining up correctly at all. And he's actually the most energetic one as well. So you have the most energetic person just scarfing down a sandwich. And I don't know how, it's like a quarter of a sandwich and he's scarfing it down, but it takes him 10 minutes to eat. So that kind of that threw me off, but I was fine with it. And you know, this was the style of filmmaking, so I'm not gonna hold it against the film. I will give a what's it called, a disclaimer to anybody who watches it, like, hey, well, actually, I'll let them watch it first. I'll ask them if they notice it, because if they don't notice it, I won't mention it, because the moment you mention it, that's when the glass shatters and they start to actually notice it.
I don't know. I feel like it would be hard not to notice, especially like you said, that one cop.
Yeah, some people notice. I mean, some people don't. I'm trying to remember if I showed Suspiria to a friend. I forgot if I told her or not about the ADR.
I can't remember if I noticed it right away for Suspiria, but this one I definitely did.
I noticed it. It was driving me crazy. I remember that day, because it was just like another time that I had trouble like finding I was making sure that I had the right copy for a film was The Dark Knight Rises, because I was in such disbelief that was Bane's voice. So pretty much those two, like me finding the film and doing research, yeah, that was about equivalent.
What about the music in this film?
Oh, his music's always great. His scores are amazing. Though there was one that I was like, I like this, but I'm in disagreement where he's using it in certain portions. Because there'll be like a high tense moment, somebody's getting murdered, and you have like this real upbeat like old school detective music going on. I'm like, this doesn't really fit for me. Maybe because he's trying to do like a horror comedy thing, like maybe trying to put in some contrast to like keep the film fun, but it didn't work for me. But I'll say everything else worked great for me.
The music is very memorable, and I think there were times where it didn't fit, but it also worked that it didn't fit. And there were times where it would just stop abruptly. The music would stop abruptly, and it reminded me a little bit of New Wave. It's kind of jarring. The music, I think, was put there to be jarring. And I know for Argento, part of the film experience with his films is that he wants you to be uncomfortable through most of his movie. And I think the music helped with that greatly.
Yeah, that's why I'm not taking a point away from the music. I just said I disagree with where he used it. I was like, it's still good, and I think I understand what he's trying to go for, and I think it could work for some people or works for the artist's intent, but it just kind of pulled me out sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that. As far as the narrative itself, this is a film that, well, a lot of Argento's film are said to have narratives that don't always make sense, but the style always shows through. What did you think about the narrative itself without giving away too many spoilers?
I like the position that the protagonist is in. Like, I like his reasons for looking into the murder, and also kind of why he gets stuck with solving it. But other than that, I think it's kind of a standard whodunit, standard horror noir film. I mean, they even go to they even look through archives at one point. But again, you can probably look at this and be like, okay, maybe this was like the pioneer for all these horror noir films we see nowadays. But having seen all those, this to me was it was standard. I like the reveals. But it's really what was carrying this movie was the style and all the other technical aspects to it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that I really saw, though, what propelled our main character into solving this crime, personally. But I appreciated the twists and turns of the narrative. Like I said, it does create an eerie atmosphere, a creepy, uncomfortable atmosphere, and I think that it succeeds at that. So the narrative didn't have to be completely perfect, and I have to say I didn't really see the ending coming for this. Like I said, no spoilers at this point, but I didn't see it coming.
I saw the ending coming, or like I gave it. I mean, if I was to really focus, if you were to pause the movie and then ask me like, "Hey, put everything together. Who is it?" I did see that coming a bit. It wasn't too much of a surprise when I saw it.
Interesting. I think I realized at a certain point, but not through most of the film.
Like, I wasn't. So you kind of have two reveals in this movie. The first one, I was like kind of half expecting. I kind of just threw it out there, and the last one, I thought more so.
So let's talk a little bit about the influence that this film had. Brian, what were you able to find?
I was able to find one thing, which is a possible influence. This is one of those that maybe this was influenced to others, or maybe it was subconsciously, but the relatable pain in this movie, Argento wanted the kills to be things that people can relate to. He said that people can't really relate to being shot with a gun, but you can relate to running into furniture, cutting your hand on a piece of glass, and or burning yourself with hot water. So his kills are based around that idea. And I think we've seen that in horror. I think we talked about it on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in which they wanted to use kind of use the farm equipment, almost your everyday items to do the kills.
Yeah, that's something I had noted as well. And we see those throughout the film with the kills. There was also an influence on Halloween, and honestly an influence on a lot of different slashers, but for Halloween, Argento said in an interview that the music of the film had an influence on John Carpenter for both Halloween and his film Vampires, which I haven't seen, but the music for both films were definitely influenced by the music by Goblin in this film here. And there's also a scene in Deep Red where a woman is murdered after being drowned in scalding water, which was also referenced in Halloween 2 with a very similar kill. James Wan has also gotten a lot of influence from Deep Red, as well as some other Argento films. He has definitely noted the director as a big influence on him. It is said that Billy the Puppet from the Saw series was influenced by a particular doll in Deep Red that we'll talk about in spoilers, I'm sure. And his film Malignant, as well as Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho, has an aesthetic and some other elements, like you mentioned, about horror noir, that are reflective of giallo, which we'll talk about, and Argento's style.
I definitely see Malignant. I get that feeling from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, I didn't know about those influences, but I definitely see them.
Yeah. The film is referenced in several other bits of horror media and is also cited as an influence. Scanner references it from Cronenberg, as well as several others. And the film is even referenced in Argento's later film, Inferno, where there's another character named Carlo. Carlo is an important character in Deep Red, and there's kind of a little bit of I wouldn't say a bit, but it references his character in Inferno. There's another influence you'll have to remind me to mention in our spoiler section, something that could possibly be an influence that I wanted to talk about. But you said there wasn't anything else you found in influence?
No, but I wanted to talk about, you mentioned the music. You said Goblin did the music for this?
Yes.
Okay, they're the same ones. I don't know if they did all the music for Suspiria, but they definitely did that beginning track.
Yes, they did. They also did, I think for Dawn of the Dead with George Romero.
What? I gotta look at that. I gotta look that up.
Yeah. I think that's something I saw, but I didn't look too deeply into it.
Yeah, I don't remember the music that well to be able to make the connection. And I think I saw Suspiria after Dawn of the Dead.
Okay. What about for its significance? What were you able to find?
So it's funny that you mentioned that this is his biggest film. This probably is his most influential film, but it does live in the shadow of Suspiria, to the point that when Japan released this movie, they called it Suspiria 2 because Suspiria 2 was successful, but this movie predates Suspiria. But like I said, this movie got released at weird times. And also the IMDb tagline for this movie is "From the creator of Suspiria." I'm like, wait, he made. I was like, what was the tagline before? Because this couldn't have been it.
Yeah, I mean, these two are without a doubt his two most well films, but this one is actually cited over Suspiria lots of times and saying it's his best work. But I mean, we'll talk about that later, which one we prefer. But it is interesting to hear that some people do have an opposite opinion.
Of course, this being Argento's first film, this is the birth of the Italian horror icon. Is he still making movies?
Yeah, he released Vortex, I think, last year.
And wasn't there one about glasses? Somebody wearing shades?
That I'm not sure of.
No, Mexico has Del Toro. We have Hitchcock. Do we have him or does UK have him?
I don't know. Is he British?
I don't know. It sounds kind of Brit. No, he's English. I mean, not that kind of English. I mean, American. I'm pretty sure he's American. Hitchcock is definitely American.
Is Hitchcock? I would say Hitchcock is the master of suspense. I don't know if I would say horror.
True. Actually, yeah. That always does get debated, but yeah, most will agree just suspense. Well, we've had other horror icons. I guess right now is with no success, Jordan Peele is probably the best one. M. Night Shyamalan goes up and down.
Not formative.
What's that?
I mean, formative, you would say Cronenberg, Carpenter, Wes Craven, I would say, is the formative horror icon.
Yeah, formative those. Sorry, I was blanking on names, but yeah, definitely Carpenter and Cronenberg, probably like the all-time.
And Italy has Argento.
Yeah. Wonder who the French have. I bet they have somebody.
I'm sure.
This, we mentioned it a little bit before, but this is the first film of Argento's with Daria Nicolodi. Mm-hmm. And they engaged in a relationship for many years. She starred in 5 of his movies, having from minor roles to significant roles. And I agree with Argento's taste in multiple ways. I can say that.
I believe she also co-wrote Suspiria.
When I saw her name for Suspiria, I just saw who she played. I didn't see the writing name, but I forget if I was looking at her profile or Suspiria's profile.
Okay. This is also a film where Argento's style really began to shine through, with the bright colors and the moving camera. And it was considered a transitional piece. Prior to this, he did his Animal trilogy, which was definitely crime films. And then this was considered a transitional piece into his more supernatural films like Suspiria. And now we kept talking about this being an Italian giallo film. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what that actually means, because this film is really considered to be a perfected version of the giallo form. Now, giallo films are stylish and violent crime thrillers from Italy. They're usually murder mysteries and whodunits. And they really started in the 1960s, but in the 1970s is when it had its golden era, which is when this film, of course, came out. Giallo, the term, comes from the word yellow in Italian, and it's in reference to a series of pulp crime mystery novels that had bright yellow covers. And some elements of these type of films from this genre is that usually protagonists are often everyday people, usually doing amateur detective work in a whodunit plot. There's usually brutal and creative death scenes. A lot of them have beautiful female victims. Murders are usually done from the point of view of the murderer, and we often see a black gloved hand. We see this in Deep Red with Argento himself actually playing the murderer with the gloved hand because he said it would be easier for him to just do it himself rather than have to direct an actor to do the hand movements. There's usually an emphasis on style and music, and one point that is usually kind of confused with these films is that there's actually no supernatural elements in giallo films. So while Suspiria is often cited as a giallo, it actually isn't because there is a supernatural plot in Suspiria. So the first widely considered giallo film was The Girl Who Knew Too Much. That's the first film. But Argento's Animal trilogy was very formative in the genre, but then, like I said, Deep Red came in and it really just solidified this whole entire genre. And this film genre predates slashers, but you can see since the slasher craze in America kind of came after this phase where giallo was huge, you can definitely see the influence in America slashers for sure. So have you had any experience or anything with giallo, or did you have anything to add to this?
I would say, actually, when did giallo start? What year?
The 1960s.
Okay, so, because I was about to say, this movie is predated by the first slasher, but it doesn't predate giallo films. Because actually, I watched the first slasher recently. I finally saw it. I didn't even know. I was like, I don't know why not more people aren't talking about this. Bay of Blood. I watched that. I'm like, oh, I was like, we finally found it. Like this is the first slasher. I think we were kind of discussing before, like, what is actually considered the first slasher? And I was like, this definitely is. I forget if they did the first person POV, but that's something that everybody, or not everybody, I think a lot of people have the misconception. I know that I used to have it about Friday the 13th, having that first person perspective. but you do see it in films such as this. And the 70s were a great time for horror. We had a lot of, with the just kind of the upgrade in practical effects, people started getting real creative. Like they started doing things that they used to only be able to dream of. And now some got a little crazy. I think in the 80s is when they ran out of good ideas and they just started doing whatever with the kills. But yeah, I would definitely have to check more of this out. Your original question was, do I have any experience with this? And no, this is, I guess, would be my first film. I would have to look at the catalog of films. Maybe I have came across another one, but I don't think I have, especially not Italian. That's for sure. But I do want to go into it and see some more. Maybe some more will make our episodes. Maybe some I can watch and I'll talk about it during the next episode, giallo.
What year did Black Christmas come out?
1974.
Okay, so that was before this as well. Like I said, I wouldn't say this invented the slasher genre, but this coming out before the big slasher craze, and then seeing just the influence it had on those slashers, I can definitely say that this genre was a big influence of that. And this also was my first giallo I've seen. I thought it was Suspiria until I looked more deeply, and like I said, that is often called one, just because it kind of gets lumped together with Argento's film, but giallo definitely doesn't have supernatural elements in general. But definitely a lot of similarities between this and Suspiria, like we said, with the aesthetics.
Yeah, I think Suspiria actually is a bit more aligned with the films in the 60s, especially when it comes to supernatural.
Yeah. So who would you recommend this film to?
Not the masses, that's for sure. No, I would recommend this film. I've said this before because there aren't many horror movies. There aren't many good horror films. I know there are those big horror nerds out there that, hey, if someone dies in it, if there's a couple cool kills, then whatever. It can be a B movie, a D movie. They'll watch it. But there aren't really too many that are actually good and competent. And I would say for any horror fan, this is a film to definitely check out. Other than that, though, I would just recommend it to cinephiles. The movie, it's not long, but it does drag for a bit. There's a lot of artistic shots in it. And I think also for the general audience, they have seen this before, and they've probably seen it in ways that are more, something they're more familiar with, a bit more modern or very modern. I believe there were Smile is a horror noir film from last year. I still need to watch that one. And I would recommend this to cinephiles because, like you said, this is this is almost like the top of the totem pole for giallo films. This has excellent cinematography. It has from great to at least interesting use of score. And I just don't think there's a lot of movies that have came from Italy. So if you're looking to just check work out from a country other than America, France, UK, this is something that will really interest cinephiles.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think that the perception of this has kind of changed because before it really was like a pulp film. Now I definitely would recommend it to people who are a little bit more familiar with art house cinema, and definitely to horror fans, especially if you are a James Wan fan. I would say definitely check this out.
And a James Wan fan, not a fan of his movie. Like, you're a fan of his style. I want to say that. Because I could see someone being like, oh, I love Insidious, Malignant. Did he do Conjuring? Is that James Wan?
I think he did the first one, didn't he?
He at least did the first one. I hope he didn't do the third one. That was bad. But I think it's like, you can like
Megan.
Those films. Yeah, Megan. You can like those films without looking too much at the style of it. You can just like those films just as a good movie, and it's just a coincidence that they're directed by James Wan. But if you really like James Wan, you like certain things that he does different than other horror movies, then yeah, definitely check this out because you'll see some comparisons. You'll be like, oh, okay, so that's how these two relate.
Yeah, I think though, if you like, I mean, I haven't seen Megan, but from what I've gathered from Megan and Malignant, they kind of have that campy element, and I think a lot of this film also has that campy element as well. So if you like that, then I would say
Yeah, I think with the humor in this film, it does give a bit of a campy feel. Not as much as those two movies, but especially not as much as *Malignant*. Megan is more of a, yeah, actually has more campy than, I was about to say a horror comedy, but those two are different.
So Megan is or isn't campy?
I would say Megan is.
Threegan.
Yeah, M. Threegan. Yeah, I think it'll fall more into the campy side. I don't know. It's either campy or it's a horror movie that has comedic elements, but isn't a horror comedy.
Okay. All right. So I think we can go ahead and move on into our spoiler discussion, our classified portion of this podcast. So if you haven't seen this film yet, if you don't want to know who committed the crime of a whodunit in our whodunit film, then go ahead and turn this off and go watch the film and then come back and listen, because we're going to be talking spoilers here.
So can I go right into the first spoiler? Because you were wondering the same thing that I was wondering.
Okay.
So while we were recording, I realized that I did not rewind this film because he says that he saw a painting, but then when he went back, the painting was no longer there, and he didn't understand. The first thing I was thinking was that the person stole the painting. The painting must be important. Is that the same thought you had?
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah, I thought the killer stole the painting, but then he goes back and he sees that, oh wait, no, he was looking at a mirror, and just because of how clear the mirror was, it looked like a painting, and notice the painting was on the other side of the wall. I forget if he has like a flashback or somebody shows up behind him, or no, he says he saw something else there in that painting, but when he's looking at the painting, he's like, no, it's missing something. So we find out that the mother of Carlo is the killer. In the beginning of the film, when he's going through that hallway and he's passing all those paintings, he passes the mirror, and they show it in the movie. And yes, the mother is right there with her.
Really?
Yeah, with her head against the back wall, so the reflection is of her, and it looks like she's part of the painting. And she has on so much makeup. She looks kind of ghoulish. So she does fit in with the painting. That's probably why we missed it the first time. But yeah, that's cool. They put the killer right there in front.
Yeah, that's so clever.
It is. And if you did notice that, then yeah, there's no doubt that she was the killer. She's inside the house right after the murder and she's hiding. So that's such a risk that, hey, most audience aren't going to catch this, if any, at all.
Yeah, it really is. And the fact that they pulled it off so excellently, it really is insane. So you said that you knew right away that it was the mother. How did you come to that conclusion? When did you come to that conclusion?
I didn't know right away. And I was like, I'll bet on it, but I'm not 100% sure. So when we find out that Carlo was one of the killers. Again, this is a movie where we have two killers. I wonder if Scream got I'm not going to say which Scream movie, but one of the Scream movies does have two killers. I wonder if they kind of got it from this. And that kind of actually threw a lot of people through a loop. But with Carlo, when we find out that he's one of the killers, I was like, wait a minute. No, Carlo was drunk and he heard the scream and he walked outside the bar. There's no way he could have went downstairs, went into the bar, come out with a drink in hand by the time that Marquez saw him. So I was like, there's somebody else. And at that point, if you just cross them out, the only one left is the eccentric mother.
Okay, so then I think you realized as soon as I realized, because I knew, like you said, Carlo couldn't have been the killer because of the way he was walking. So as soon as it said Carlo, I knew that it was going to be the mother instead, which I also wrote for influences. I wondered if this had an influence at all on Friday the 13th, Scream 2. I guess it's a spoiler for Scream 2, but that's also a part of that film as well. So I did wonder if those were influenced by this at all.
I could definitely see that because, Friday the 13th, it pulled a lot from this movie from other movies. Actually, speaking of Bay of the Blood, two of the kills in Bay of the Blood, one was used in Friday the 13th, and the other one was used in Friday the 13th Part 2. And they're pretty much shot for shot.
Wow, okay. That's definitely a film I'm going to have to check out. As far as Carlo, I didn't really expect him. I figured something was going on with him, but I knew that he wasn't the killer. I actually thought that Gianna was the killer for a long time.
I thought so too for a little bit because she had her whole thing about women being stronger than men.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, maybe the killer is a woman. And I was like, she's the one woman that we've been seeing around. But she did make that phone call with Mark while the killer was there. Which again, not going to say which Scream movie, but one of the Scream movies, there is a moment when the killer calls while somebody is there, and that's why they think it's this person. So I wonder if that's something that they pulled from this film as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's just clever minds think alike.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carlo was missing for a little bit, and I did start questioning. I'm like, where's Carlo been?
Yeah. But that's why I suspected her as well. It kind of tipped me off to the fact that the killer was probably going to be a woman. And then I also suspected her because the opening scene of this film, you see a short image where there's a child and a knife and someone's being murdered, but you only see the child's shoes. And probably me and my gender norms, I thought that it was a little girl.
Oh, I thought so too.
Surprise, it's Carlo. Surprise, it's actually Carlo.
I mean, that's what, I don't know. I think that's what European clothes looked like on everybody back in the day, like for children.
When we see that flashback later on in the film where it's showing that scene in its entirety on Christmas Day, and there's a children's song playing in the background, which is a creepy children's song. I thought there was really good editing in that part. That whole scene was just very memorable, and then it just kind of cuts it abruptly as this child's screaming, and I thought that editing was brilliant.
Are you talking about the beginning or when we actually see the whole thing?
When we actually see the whole thing at the end, it cuts from just Carlo horrified to just really quickly, just a real quick cut to his mother swinging the hatchet.
Yeah, I like that scene because I was not expecting that. I was like, somebody's going to die. I wasn't expecting it at the point that she just, you know what, I'm going to kill him. It just like snapped on the spot. Just came over and just casually just stabbed the father in front of the son. And I like that when you see that, it makes sense for Carlo's behavior. You're like, oh, this is why he's a mess. Like, this guy has some unresolved issues.
Yeah, definitely. And we do get hints of it earlier on in the conversation that Marcus is having with the mother, because she mentions that her husband made her stop acting. So it's a good little reference there.
And this isn't the only time in the film that Carlo is subject to some head trauma.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that part was insane. I was so confused while it was happening. And yeah, his head went splat right in the truck.
Was Karma driving that truck or something? Because that just, the way all of that just played out.
Whew. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, Karma came by earlier that day and put that hook on the truck. I was like, why is that hook there? Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's something with the Italian trucks, or maybe that was just something that was hanging out. That was a clever kill, and I thought, oh man, this is brutal. And then he smashed his head. I was like, oh, that's one way to go out. And then the car comes and that was a good effect. Like, thinking back to it, I was like, that was that was done really well. Because I'm thinking about, I doubt you've ever seen it, Toxic Avenger.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I know my mom's probably cheering right now because she used to love that movie as a kid. I think I may have mentioned it because I was trying to find movies that my mom annoyed my aunt with, and my aunt told me it was like Toxic Avenger. She was like, she had that on repeat. So we watched the movie together, of course, when I got older, and I believe it was that movie. They had a car run over somebody's head, but you can tell it was a watermelon. It was for sure a watermelon, and that movie is like 10 years after this movie. So, like, all right. I was like, this movie did good. Actually, how did you feel about the kill effects? Because I mentioned the knife, how they did that, and how they still made that look brutal, even though you're not seeing the actual penetration. Yeah,
I mean, I thought that most of the kills here were pretty brutal, but the one that stood out for me was Professor Giordani. His death for me was definitely the creepiest and brutal for me, because first of all, he's distracted by this creepy ass doll, this mechanized doll that just comes out and is moving towards him, and it's definitely memorable. But while he's distracted by this, the killer, who I'm guessing at that point was Carlo? I kind of get confused about who was doing the killing at what point, but the killer comes out and he just slams his teeth into the side of a desk, and that looked like it hurt. That was brutal. I felt that was definitely the most brutal.
And that's one of those that you can kind of, like, maybe you don't relate to, but you just, I don't know, like a fear that people have, like getting curb stomped or just falling and like hitting your mouth. Like, because I don't know, like I'm not completely confident that, I do have some like bigger lips, but I don't know, like, if they could actually prevent if I just fell face first into something. Remember Palm Springs?
Yeah.
When she fell over and broke her tooth. So that's something that I think people kind of have a fear of, and it plays on that.
I'm a person who also frequently dreams, because I grind my teeth a lot, but I dream a lot that my teeth are falling out, and it's not pleasant. So I've definitely had dreams where I've like hit something and my teeth just fell right out.
Yeah, I've had some teeth dreams before. There's one in my head that it still sticks with me. It's still horrifying. If I ever make a horror film, you guys are getting that. No one's allowed to leave the theater.
Yeah, that was definitely the most memorable for me.
I really like the elevator one, and I think that one is another one that plays on people's fear. The fear of like getting something caught in an elevator or escalator, and it keeps going and tears something off. And yeah, the way she has that necklace stuck in there, it's like, okay, this seems like it could be a The only thing that made me question, I was like, God dang, what is that chain made out of? Like, What are the links made out of? Like, I can see, it's like cutting her, but like, what kind of metal is holding that together?
It was like a clean cut, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty clean. And this almost happened to a dog, I think, last year. I saw the video last year, but
oh yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, there's a video of a man who he goes in an elevator and he has his dog on a leash, but the dog doesn't step in the elevator with him as the doors close. So the dog is still outside with the leash attached. And luckily there was a bystander. Bystander saw like the dog like was trying to get him out. The dog started rising. So Resident Evil also did a kill like this, where an elevator came crashing down on somebody's head, the first Resident Evil movie.
It seems like a Final Destination type kill too.
Yeah, I think maybe, and I haven't watched the Final Destination films. I've seen some of the, some of the kills. I understand the premise, but it seems like that those movies also play on like the fears that people may have and like as intrusive thoughts. We all see those memes, or even there's people out there that are scarred and they don't want to drive behind a lumber truck truck anymore.
Yep.
So that's what makes these kills effective.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that the elevator kill was our last kill in the film, and I do think that the film ended a little abruptly. That was one complaint I had of it, but I really did like the final shot that we had of our main character looking into the pool of blood.
Looking into that deep red. It all came back around. I was all right with the ending. And especially, I think a lot of horror movies just end abruptly because there's so much. I think the longer you go on, the more questions you start to ask. Like, so how's this investigation going to go? Like, so what does he write in his statement? What is the process for this? Was there somebody in that elevator?
I think for me, I just wanted the fight between him and the mom to go on just a little bit longer, and then I would have been happy.
It's the 70s. It wouldn't have been that great. Not the choreography wasn't that great yet. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I wouldn't expect too much choreography from her, but I would have just a little something more. What did you think of the little sociopathic girl? Psychopathic?
Oh, I was wondering at a point, like, does she have a twin sister? Because if so, or a sister of any sort, I was like, is it two kids in a trench coat that are doing the murders?
Yes.
Because, I mean, we have the children's music, so I'm thinking that it could be a child. And then we have her, and she's off a bit. There's a point where she pins a lizard. I don't know if they did that. Was that a real lizard?
They said it wasn't, because in, I think, one of the film releases, it might have been the UK release, they cut out that portion as well as a scene of two dogs fighting.
The two dogs fighting
they mentioned,
I didn't get.
Well, so they cut out those portions, but then they like wrote a letter saying, hey, this is just effects, so don't worry about it.
Was the dog one just an effect? Because they looked like they were going at it, like Exorcist.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they were actually fighting, but I'm not sure. But I read that the purpose of those was because, like I said, Argento wanted you to be uncomfortable the whole film. And so that added tension. The dog fighting added tension and just level of discomfort to the audience.
Yeah, it was, well, not the dog fighting. I was like, all right, some dogs fighting. But the little girl, especially like the way they set it up, the father calls her
very
over
strange.
and smacks her, and you're like, what the heck? And then you look down and you're like, oh, you got some issues. Now, Mark's approach to her was it was one of those, I was like, whoa, gotta calm down. It was one of those shaking of like, tell me what it is. Tell me what it is.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like Nicolas Cage. I still gotta watch that movie, The Witcher, when he's like shaking the one person with the doll. Like, how did it get burned? How did it get burned?
Not The Witcher. The Wicker Man?
The Wicker Man. Yeah, not The Witcher.
The Witcher.
Ooh, I would like I mean, honestly, I would like to see Nicolas Cage in every role.
Yeah, that's fair. I was like, now I'm definitely imagining Nicolas Cage Witcher. He should have been recast instead of other dude.
If you ever have a recast, it should be Nicolas Cage.
I almost said Liam Neeson. It's not Liam Neeson. It's Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah, Liam's. Yeah, no, not Liam's. I mean, take that one too.
Yeah, I don't know what the little girl was all about other than just to make everyone uncomfortable. That might have just been it.
Well, she was a redhead, so it could be that she was a red herring.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe. I think Argento just like came up with ideas and he's like, this feels weird. Let's put it in there.
The original script was 500 pages.
Yeah, I did read that.
I'm like, God, between him and James Cameron should never get together.
Yeah, definitely not. I think Del Toro said something in his intro. It's just like whatever turned him on, he just put it in.
We've seen that before.
Don't quote that. I could be misquoting, but I have this vague memory of him saying that in his intro. It's on YouTube. So, do you think that this film holds up?
I think it does. I think I think we say it every time, practical effects, they definitely hold up. But looking at it, I mean, like the one thing that could age poorly are the kills, and I think they're done really well, and they're still effective. So I think this film does hold up. I don't think there's any subject material in here that's that's dated as well. Even though that this film does have a bit of a slower pace, it does drag at some points. We see that today with films as well. So yeah, I think this film holds up.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I said, you mentioned the kills. I think that they definitely hold up. I mean, practical effects, they do hold up. And of course, the bright red blood is not something that we use in a lot of modern films, but I kind of wish we did. I kind of wish we'd go back to the bright red blood. You
told me that recently. You like the bright red blood. I like what we have now.
I think Hellraiser was where I mentioned that.
Oh, it could have been.
I think it's gotten a little bit better because at one point it was like almost black. And I was like, this is boring. Give me some color.
Yeah, or that one horrible movie I watched recently, Wolf Hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they had already barrels of blood and they wanted more barrels, so they watered it down. Because blood was leaking like water. Like it was all off.
Gotcha, okay. Now, the Terrifier, which I haven't seen, a recent gory film, uses bright red blood and practical effects. So, I mean, I think it's there if you want to make that like homage kind of, but definitely in modern films we have darker blood. So, what is your overall rating of this film?
I give this film a solid B. I think it it holds up. I think the narrative is a bit simple, something we kind of seen before, but I think with all the style and the acting that's driving it, it's a great and enjoyable film. It's almost a B+.
Yeah, I'm going to be right there with you. I think I am going to give it a B+, just because the kills for me were they're fun. And I do like seeing the different influences. I like learning more about the genre. But like you said, there are some slower parts. There are some parts that drag. And the narrative is a little bit simple. But those don't bring it down too much. So I'll say B+.
No, when I say bring it down, I mean, I'm bringing it down from what keeps this from being like a superb film, because those problems aren't making this at all a bad film. It's not making portions of this bad. It's just it messes with the overall. B is still a great film, must see.
Yeah, definitely. I will bring it down for the sandwich scene.
I'm telling you, whoever the editor must have been, I would have been furious. I would have been I'd be like, who decided to give him a sandwich?
Yeah.
And how many times did he have to eat that sandwich, by the way? Because we know that, how many times did they shoot that scene? Because he would have had to eat a new sandwich every time.
He was really eating that sandwich, too. He was munching.
He was tearing that sandwich apart.
He really was.
That's why I don't understand. I was like, how is he eating this for like the last 5 minutes?
It was a while, wasn't it?
It was a while for the size of bites that he was taking. I felt like there was like, he had like, it was like his partner was just refilling his hand with the sandwich between takes. Between scenes.
Keeping him happy.
Yeah, when we see that mirror shot, I expect to see like the mother and then him with a sandwich.
I do really want to go back and look at that mirror shot again at the beginning. That's something I'll have to do once we finish recording.
That is, man, that top quality choice right there for directors. I'm going to remember that one.
Mm-hmm.
Which sucks because I can't tell anybody about it because it spoils the movie.
Yeah. Well, after we watch it, and you're like, Paul, did you know?
Like, hey, simpleton, did you see this part right here? Explain the whole movie for you. I called it first watch.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's when you pretend that you called it the first watch. Oh, yeah, I knew this all along. So I think that concludes Deep Red and the first film that we've talked about with the Italian giallo. Bryant, what's our next episode?
Our next episode, getting back into some themes, because our next episode will be in February. So, once again, we're going to be doing Black History Month. Now, I am excited for this. I'm excited for this month. One of the reasons because we're doing 4 films, because we are doing weekly now. Like when I requested that we do weekly, I was already looking forward to this month, and kind of, I mean, because this was the closest one, but I'm looking forward to the future months such as October and doing 4 horror movies. But I'm really looking forward to this month. This month is full of movies that I have not seen, movies that I put off, movies that I just didn't know about. And the first movie is actually a movie that you've seen that I have not. And that's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yeah.
And I mentioned in the Night of the Living Dead how there are 2 racial topics that I'm passionate about. And one of them was representation. And I think I mentioned that the other one was interracial relationships. But I was like, I don't know of any movies that will get me to talk about that topic. And hey, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? That topic. So I'm super excited for it. I already have like some things that I would like to talk about. Like I said, I'm already passionate about it. So even without seeing the movie, there are some things that I want to mention and may bring up some personal experiences. So it should be a good episode.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, join us for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner 1967. And Caitlyn, while they're picking out their dinner attire, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at OpSilverScreen. On Facebook, we're at Operation Silver Screen, but on Twitter and Instagram, that's OpSilverScreen. You can find us on our personal letterboxes as well. If you want to see some different reviews on films that we may not be discussing on here and just to keep up with our watching through the week, you can find Brian at Swank Seal, that's capital S, and me, I'm at Coffee Spoon Kate, that's Coffee Spoon CAIT.
Yes, and definitely keep up with that letterbox. We're going to be watching a lot of movies from 2022. I'll probably start this week. I'm going to say the week after, just to give myself a little bit more time. But yeah, I'm going to start knocking these out. And so far I have been writing reviews for these films. I've been, Caitlyn has requested / demanded that I write reviews starting in 2023. And so far I've been doing as such. So yeah, keep up with the letterbox.
Yeah, the Oscar nominations have been announced, so we'll be looking to see when that's going to be airing, and we'll be giving our own awards episode shortly. So you'll have that to look forward to as well.
So, till the next assignment, I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
See ya.